Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. The recent strike that cut off Crimea's last surviving rail connection is being called one of the most decisive blows in this ongoing war, and today we are going to break it down the way we would analyze a product or a machine. We will examine the exterior, the interior, the performance, the safety measures, the unique selling points, the cost it carries, and finally the conclusion that comes out of this devastating event. By looking at it in this structured way, we can understand not only what was hit, but why it matters so deeply for both Russia and Ukraine, and what it means for the conflict moving forward. From the outside, the rail link was always presented as something solid, an unshakable artery that Russia could rely on. The tracks stretched out like veins of steel across the landscape, carrying the lifeblood of supplies, fuel, and reinforcements to the peninsula. After the Crimean bridge had already been targeted multiple times, this railway became the symbol of Russia's continued grip over Crimea. To the Russian public, its exterior looked strong, heavily monitored, and reinforced to withstand any attack. It was guarded by air defense systems, watched constantly, and backed by years of propaganda about its resilience. But the truth was different. Externally, its vulnerabilities were glaring to any military analyst. Long stretches of track were exposed across open terrain. Bridges and choke points stood as obvious targets for long-range strikes. Every supply train that traveled down the line followed predictable schedules and predictable paths, making it almost impossible to hide from advanced surveillance drones and precision missiles. What looked like an indestructible shield from the outside was actually more like glass, strong enough when untouched, but fragile when struck at the right point. Inside, the story was no less fragile. The railway was not just a steel track with locomotives, it was the artery through which Russia attempted to pump confidence into its claim over Crimea. Inside those carriages, supplies rolled in by the ton, ammunition, artillery shells, armored vehicles, food, medical supplies, and fuel. But beyond the material goods, the interior carried something less visible, the illusion of permanence. To the people living in Crimea, every train that arrived was a message that Moscow was still in control, still capable of sustaining them, and still willing to defend the peninsula. To the soldiers, it meant reinforcements and steady logistics. To the Kremlin, it meant political reassurance that Crimea could be sustained as a part of Russia's empire. But this interior was overloaded. Every train was packed beyond normal capacity, every schedule was stretched thin, and every movement was happening under pressure. It was like a machine running at maximum speed, without time for maintenance, straining under demand. And once a strike landed, the interior was revealed for what it was, not a stable foundation, but an overstressed system running on borrowed time. Performance is where the real test lies. For years, the rail link performed exactly as designed. It was efficient, fast, and reliable. It could deliver far more than trucks moving over roads, and it could sustain military operations on a scale that few other logistics routes could match. The trains ran on schedule, moved thousands of tons of supplies, and gave Russia the confidence to keep its war machine moving. But performance is not just about peacetime efficiency, it's about resilience under stress. And here, the weakness was undeniable. One precise strike was enough to bring operations to a halt. One attack delayed countless shipments, derailed schedules, and forced Russia to scramble for alternatives that simply don't measure up. Trucks over narrow roads can't carry the same load. Sea routes are vulnerable to Ukrainian drones. Airlifting supplies on a massive scale is unrealistic. So while the railway once performed at a high standard, its ability to withstand attack has been exposed as almost non-existent. A system that breaks with one strike is not a system that can truly perform under wartime conditions. The issue of safety features tells the same story. Russia had bragged about its defensive umbrella around Crimea. They deployed anti-aircraft systems, layered defenses, constant patrols, and supposedly high-tech monitoring to prevent strikes like this. On paper, these were the safety features that would protect the line. In reality, these defenses failed. Ukraine's drones and missiles slipped through, found the weak points, and delivered precise blows. If this were a commercial product, you would say it had safety features that sounded impressive in advertisements but collapsed in real use. No backup systems, no redundancy strong enough to prevent disruption, and no way to immediately restore what was lost. Once the strike landed, the failure of those safety features became obvious. The defenses were not layered enough, not modern enough, and not reliable enough to protect the very infrastructure Russia depended on most. Unique selling points are usually what makes a product stand out. For the Crimean Railway, its unique selling point was that it was the last dependable large-scale supply line into Crimea. The bridge was damaged, the sea routes were threatened, the air routes were risky, and trucks could never replace the capacity of trains. That gave this railway its value. It was unique because it was the final artery keeping the peninsula's war effort alive. But uniqueness can also become a curse. Because it was the only one of its kind, it carried enormous importance. That meant any strike against it would deliver not just tactical pain but strategic and psychological blows as well. Its uniqueness made it irreplaceable, and being irreplaceable made it an inevitable target. What Russia boasted as its great strength was, in reality, its glaring weakness. When we talk about price, this is where the consequences truly pile up. The physical cost is enormous: rails twisted and destroyed, bridges damaged, locomotives wrecked, and months of repair work required. Each repair takes manpower, resources, and time that Russia can hardly spare in a war where every day matters. But beyond the material cost, there is the political and strategic price. Every successful strike on this lifeline chips away at Russia's image of invincibility. It undermines the message that Crimea is safe under Russian control. It damages morale among soldiers waiting for supplies that never arrive. It forces Moscow to divert resources to defend, rebuild, and secure what was supposed to be untouchable. And the longer the route is disrupted, the higher the cost becomes. Each delay means less ammunition at the front, fewer reinforcements arriving on time, and less ability to fight effectively. This price is not just measured in rubles or steel, it is measured in lost time, lost opportunities, and potentially lost battles. So where does this leave us in conclusion? At the beginning of this conflict, Russia's grip on Crimea was symbolized by strong infrastructure, bridges, railways, and supply lines that looked impossible to break. But this strike proves that the exterior strength was more fragile than it appeared. The interior was overloaded and stretched thin. The performance collapsed under a single blow. The safety features that were promised turned out to be unreliable. The unique selling point of being the last reliable lifeline turned into its biggest liability. And the price, both material and political, is staggering. What once looked like an unshakable system is now revealed to be a vulnerability waiting to be targeted again and again. For Russia, the strike is more than just a logistical setback. It is a direct challenge to the illusion that Crimea is untouchable. For Ukraine, it is a symbol of their ability to strike where it hurts most, to cut off lifelines, and to reshape the battlefield one hit at a time. For the world watching, it is proof that even the strongest-looking structures can be brought down if the right pressure is applied in the right place. The Crimea Railway may have been Russia's lifeline, but now it looks more like a liability, a system too fragile to survive the new era of precision warfare. And as each strike lands, the conclusion becomes clearer: the cost of holding Crimea is rising, and Russia's grip is weakening with every passing day. That's the complete picture of what happened when one strike cut Crimea's last lifeline, exposing vulnerabilities Moscow never wanted the world to see.